Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for taking the time out today to join us to look at how to automate your financial statement preparation with Caseware Financials. We will be taking you through for the next hour, giving you an in-depth run through on the new financials applications, giving you a bit of insight on how that all works. So to help us to go through the presentation, we've got my colleagues with us today. My name is Anthony Launchbury. I'm the manager of the professional services team at Caseware. We're joined by Ashley Goldsmith, who is the senior product manager and is responsible for all the content put together within our desktop applications, but also our cloud applications, which is the focus for this webinar this afternoon. We're also joined by my colleague Georgina Atfield. She is a technician within the education and media team, and she will be helping us field all the questions and collate all that information as we go through the presentation today. Ash and Georgina are going to join us in a moment, but just before we do, I just want to take you through a quick housekeeping slide. The webinar is going to be a lot more powerful as and when we get your questions through and important matters that you want to discuss or maybe get more information on. Okay. Hopefully you've come today ready with a list of questions potentially to ask Ashley and us at Caseware. So please feel free to use the Q&A field within your Zoom application. George and I will be looking at those questions throughout the webinar. If we can put Ash on the spot and ask him a question on point, then we will do to keep the flow of the webinar going quite smoothly. If not, we have got a dedicated Q&A session at the end of this webinar where we can field those questions. Okay, anything we can't answer within the time, obviously being mindful of everyone being able to get back to lunch or other responsibilities, we'll make sure that's available after this webinar in a Q&A document. The agenda coming through. Okay, this is what we're going to be looking at through the webinar. Ash is going to be steering us through the financial product roadmap, which we'll go through in a moment. Then he's going to lead us into a product demonstration. Again, we'll try and get those questions added into that session as well to make sure they're on point. Then I'll be walking you through some of the financials onboarding plans, and thank you there, Connor, and showing you how we can support you on those journeys when you start working with Caseware and specifically with our cloud applications. And at the end, hopefully we should have about 10, 15 minutes worth of Q&A time left. Okay, so for any questions that you may want to answer that falls out of those sessions. Okay, so the next slide up then will be our financials product roadmap. Ash, do you want me to take control of this for the product roadmap or?
No, I'm happy to share my screen if you just bear with me for a second and I'll get that up and running.
Super. Perfect. That's loaded up my side, Ash.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much. The product roadmap then, obviously the focus for this session today, we're going to be looking at the UK FRS 102 app. But I thought I'd just run through the apps that are available currently on the cloud for financials. So we already have micro entity solutions available for both the UK and the Republic of Ireland market. They've been around for a fair number of months now, about a year or so, roughly. We do have some users of those in the wild, as it were. And recently, a few months ago, we released the full version of FRS 102 for the UK market, which will include XBRL tagging, automated XBRL tagging, and also consolidations as well within that template. So those are available right now. Moving forward, towards the end of October, we are looking to release the Republic of Ireland version of the 102 template. Effectively, all we're waiting for on that is for the XBRL tagging to be completed. Obviously, the way that these template builds work is we build all of the content, and then once the content's signed off, we'll go into a tagging period where we'll go and tag all of that content. And we're getting towards the end of the tagging now. So once that's finalized and been through our QA team, we'll be releasing that for Republic of Ireland as well. Moving on to next year, it's going to be quite a busy period, as you can see, as we get FRS 101 template available for the UK market. We're scheduling that to be available with tags and everything else by the end of March, so around Easter of next year. Again, we'll follow on with the Republic of Ireland product, the equivalent for 101, We're looking at sort of July time for that. And we'll be working kind of simultaneously on the LLP template for the UK market, obviously, which is due to be released around about August of 2025. Following that, at the end of the year, nice little Christmas present, hopefully for everyone, the full IFRS UK template, again with tagging, consolidations, etc., available by the end of next year. So out of our desktop suite, all that will remain will be the Republic of Ireland IFRS template, which again, we're planning to follow on in March 26. And then our specialist templates, the Charity and Academy template, which we're hoping to get available on the cloud in time for the AAD's 25-26 reporting year. So around about July or so for that to be available on the cloud. And then finally, our pensions templates will be the final template to transition across at the end of 2026. So we're hoping that by the end, just over 2 years' time, we will have an equivalent template available on the cloud for all of our current desktop solutions. So that's the time frame that we're looking at. You'll notice that there's some asterisks on the slide there. Now, the reason that I've added that in is that obviously we have to be mindful of the periodic review, which it will eventually take effect for periods commencing 1st of Jan 2026. So all of the templates that are currently available now on the left-hand side, plus anything else reporting under 102, so the LLP template, for example, as well. Charities and academies ultimately will include the periodic review changes as well. But we will be updating those templates with our normal compliance updates. So there will be an updated version of each of those templates going out in good time for you to be able to prepare your 2026, December 2026 year-end accounts. I believe that there's likely to be a period of early adoption that's permissible for the triennial review changes. So again, if we can, we'll try to make those changes available to you if you want to accept them slightly earlier than the mandatory period date. Okay, so that's a fairly comprehensive list of the products that we're going to be releasing over the next period. What I would like to do for roughly the next half an hour or so is just to go through a short product demonstration, just to show you what the FRS 102 template currently looks like, for those of you that haven't seen it before, and also sort of the general functionality behind putting a set of accounts together using cloud financials. So what you'll do, first of all, on the cloud will be to create an entity. Now, I've just called this entity here Caseware Launch 2024, and I've got a list of engagements here. In reality, this would be your company name, and you would probably have your 2024 year-end, 2023 year-end as your different engagements. But just for testing purposes, I try to keep all of my test files together in one place. So all I've done is created new engagements. On this server, I just have UK micro, FRS 105, obviously, and FRS 102 available. So that's how you go about creating a new engagement. And if I open up this first tab here, then this is basically a blank file that I've just created earlier on today. So this is what you'll be presented with from the outset. And this, for those who use our desktop product, this is kind of the equivalent of the document manager with our various wizard documents here. And then we've got tabs along the top here to go to different parts of the file. So the process is very similar to the desktop in that the first instance, what you would want to do would be to get some data into your file. And obviously we can go through various different means, very different options for getting that data into the file. So we can pull it from existing Caseware desktop working papers file, and I'll show you an enhanced version of that shortly. We've got various other engagement files. Just want to show you an Excel import shortly, but also we do have various accounting software that you can pull data from. So just clicking on that link, it'll just take a little while to load up the options, but we have some of the more regularly used different types of bookkeeping software that you can import from directly, so QuickBooks, Xero, etc. We can do an import from that data if that's where your source is likely to be. So just nice and simple for this demo, I'm just going to pull through data from an Excel file. So I'm just going to click on the Excel link and then browse. And I've just got this quite simple trial balance set up in Excel that I'm just going to go through. So what we need to do is obviously, first of all, label up each of our columns. So first and foremost, we have our nominal code. So we're going to call that our account number. Our description, we're going to call that our account name. And then we have our current year balance, prior year balances, and prior year 2 balances as well. Just to quickly note on that we do have options to split out your credit and debit columns for each year. So if your Excel spreadsheet does split between credits and debits, then obviously just add in 2 as your current year, but set them up as your credit and debit columns respectively, and import the data, and that will come through perfectly fine. You don't need to necessarily import all 3 years. Obviously, once you've rolled this engagement forward, in a subsequent year, you would only need to import your current year data. Obviously, you would by then have, in this instance, 3 prior years worth of data in your engagement file. We do also have this option towards the bottom left to include zero balance accounts, which you might want to bring in because perhaps they might be used in the future, and we can map them now so that we don't have to have that extra step involved in future years. But it's up to you if you want to include or exclude those nominal codes which have zero balances across all 3 years. So when I hit import, the data will appear quite quickly into your engagement file. And you see I've got my 3 years worth of data here, but the next step is very much to assign those accounts. We're not quite at the advanced level where it can just literally pick up the descriptions of the nominal codes and post them all to the right place. So in year 1 of an engagement, there will be the additional task of basically mapping your unassigned accounts here on the left-hand side to the Caseware equivalent mapping codes. And as soon as we have that link in place, all of the figures will appear in the relevant places within the financial statements. So the mapping structure here on the right-hand side, again, for those of you familiar with the desktop, it's very, very similar. We actually have one extra tier of mapping, so a 5th tier of mapping that we have added in just to give us a little bit of extra flexibility on cloud financials. But again, generally speaking, the mapping masks are similar to what you may have experienced on the desktop. Now, there are a couple of extra features when it comes to actually doing the assignment of accounts that aren't available on the desktop but do appear on cloud financials. So if I just left click first of all on goodwill cost brought forward, you can see it looks at that code and shows us some suggested accounts that we might want to use. So goodwill cost brought forward, it may well be that we want to use this code here. So you get a confirmation on the right hand side. Similarly for additions, if I click on that, we can assign the account quickly there just by clicking on that green assign button that pops up. Alternatively, if you prefer a more sort of old school method, then you can use the search functionality on the right hand side. So if I just type in goodwill, it will filter out all of the mapping code descriptions that contain that text. And then you can just simply drag and drop codes from the left-hand side into the relevant mapping description on the right. So I'll just do that one, and amortization brought forward as well, just to give you an idea.
Sorry to jump in, buddy.
Yeah, no
questions coming from Josh asking, would the mapping still need to be completed if data was imported from an existing desktop file? So I thought rather than answer it privately, it'd be useful for everyone else to hear this one as well.
Yeah, so after this, I will just go through a quick demo of our tool called CloudBridge, which is our preferred method. So if you are an existing desktop user, CloudBridge will basically port across the mapped trial balance from your desktop file to the equivalent codes within the cloud. So I'd strongly recommend using that rather than starting from scratch and having to go through this mapping ordeal within the cloud. But yeah, if it's all right, Tony, I'll come on to that shortly.
No trouble. Thanks, Ash.
Okay, cheers. So I've just mapped a couple of accounts in this example, but obviously you need to go through that entire list and make sure that everything's mapped in order to get your figures in place for the first year on a cloud engagement. Now, when I've run similar courses to this in the past, one of the common questions there is once you've mapped that, let's say we've mapped what was, say, a Sage chart of accounts or a Xero chart of accounts there for one particular entity. Is there a way to use that as a starting point for another engagement? The good news is yes, there is. You can base another engagement on that mapped version. So you would only have to go through that mapping scenario once. Okay, so if it is a consistent nominal structure and they're always going to be the same nominals that are used to link to the same mapping codes, then just do that once and then create any future engagements based on the first file where you've already applied all of the mapping. Just before I forget, because I tend to miss this part out, I just also want to mention about consolidations and how you go about importing data. So if I click on the company name and towards the top left here and go into the consolidation window, obviously by default, it assumes it's just a single entity that we're setting up here. But by clicking on these three dots, we can start to add a consolidation structure here by linking, if you want to an existing engagement, or simply adding an extra section of your trial balance within this engagement for you to import data again. So if I click on the add linked engagement, we would need to search for a company name. I'm just going to use my Caseware launch entity again. And you would just basically select an entity here and click on OK. And then that would be linked. Also, what we can do is we can add an imported trial balance where you just literally need to give the name of the subsidiary, subsidiary 1, click on save, and we'll get that structure in place. Not quite sure what happened on the first one. Let's just add a linked engagement again. There we go. If I click OK, there we go. Now that's come through now. Because that entity already has its own subsidiary, you see we kind of inherit that mapping structure. So it's quite easy to sort of add extra tiers. We can edit or remove subsidiaries within the group, but effectively that's how we go about setting up the consolidation structure. Once you've done that, to import a TB for your subsidiary, it's a case of going back to the data wizard again, importing, and re-import trial balance. But this time you would literally select your sub rather than the parent entity before browsing for the file and importing, basically following the same process that we've already done. That you obviously only need to do that if it's if you go for the TB option rather than re-importing, linking to an existing engagement. Okay, so that's option 1 is importing the data from the trial balance and then obviously work your way through the wizard. The preferred option, and to deal with the question that was raised, if you are a desktop user, then we have this tool called Cloud Bridge, where you will port across your data from an existing engagement file, desktop engagement file, and link it to your cloud entity. So in order to do this, just go to any file. I've got 3 years worth of data, I think, in this engagement. And onto the document manager, you'll need to add from the library a couple of documents here for Cloud Bridge. So Cloud Bridge and then the database content option. Now, I've already added them in this engagement here. Once they're set up, I'll open up the second one first of all. So the first tool will basically pull through just the trial balance data, which is what I'm going to do shortly. But the enhanced tool, if you like, the database content option, also enables you to pull through data from the wizard as listed here. So any of the answers you've given for employee numbers, whether you're single entity or consolidated, and then also within the accounts, some of the simpler text areas within strategic report, director's report, post balance sheet events, some of the simpler text notes, we can also database that content and then port that across also to the equivalent part of the cloud engagement. So I would recommend doing that because it will obviously save you time on your cloud engagement file when you get to that process. For this demo, I'm just to save us a couple of seconds of time here. I'm just going to use the data import, the trial balance import, rather than running that the CloudBridge database tool as well. So I just need to select my entity and link it to a file that I want to use. So I've set this demo file up, today's date and CloudBridge. And I just need to say what data do I want to pull through. So all 3 years, happy with that. And this is the key. It's using this remap file. And the latest version we have is 1.2. So that's the definition file that basically takes your existing map codes from the desktop and ports it across to the cloud so that all of your data will come through mapped. If I then click on transfer engagement data, it will push our data across to the cloud engagement. Because I've got this tick box opened here, it should also automatically open up the cloud file. And you'll see that data appears within the engagement file here. And if I go to the assign accounts screen, I think I've actually pulled through the same file twice here, but automatically those figures will be mapped across. Okay, so you shouldn't have to go through this unassigned. I think in my testing this morning, I've already gone through and kind of duplicated this, but in essence, all of those codes will be fully mapped across to your engagement file. So you won't need to go through the mapping process a second time, which is the main benefit of using that CloudBridge tool. So apologies, I've got some of the options still showing on the existing codes, but that's basically the purpose of having the CloudBridge tool in place. Okay, so whichever route you go down for data imports, whether it be Excel imports, something from Xero or other accounting software, or whether you go down the route of using CloudBridge, you'll then need to work your way through the wizards. And I'm just going to open up a part built file because there was quite a lot of questions in these wizards. And just to, again, save us a little bit of time, I'll show you what a completed set of accounts would look like here. So if I open up the entity size calculator IC1 to begin with, within the guidance section here, this is kind of help text that you can close or expand with the little arrow here. So this is a single entity engagement. All of the turnover gross assets figures are populated via the mapping. The average number of employees, these are input fields. The white cells are input fields. So you would manually type in your average number of employees. And based on the data that we've got here, our company size is given as being medium. Okay, so you can override if you'd want to, if there's any particular reason why the prior year should have been small, for example, or large, and that may have an effect on the current year size. But in this example, I'm just going to leave us as a medium-sized company that therefore would need to be audited. Move through then to database selections. That button towards the bottom right will take you through to the next of our wizard documents, IC2. Now, the tool to pull through data from Companies House is also available on the cloud as it is on our desktop. So by typing in a company number towards the top here and hitting refresh, that will pull through the data from Companies House that relates to that company number that's been entered. So the company name would appear, as well as the registered office and also some details about the directors here. Now, once that data has been imported, if I click on the launch button here, you can still go ahead and modify it by clicking on the relevant text fields and just simply overwriting if you need to. So that would be our registered office. Similarly, with our directors, you can add things like dates of appointment, dates of resignation, if applicable, and change any of these. If you perhaps just wanted initials to be shown for a director, for example, you could change it there. We also have details of things like bankers and our auditors and accountants. Perhaps if I just launch the auditors accountants field, again, addresses can be entered in here and amended as required. Then we have quite a lot of presentation options. So again, first time you set an engagement up, you'll need to go through these. These obviously will be rolled forward into a year 2 file. You can still go ahead and change any of these answers, but first year we do need to go through and just set these up. So basically, the capitalization is one option of company, lowercase versus uppercase, etc. there. We also have options for the director's report, the chairman's report, the spelling of judgment, various options for whether you want to refer to the statement of financial position or the balance sheet, format 1, format 2, a 2 or 4 column approach, various different formatting options that just need to be set up the first time you go through and set your engagement up. Finally, we have 2 extra options here for entering in employee numbers. So this table would appear in the accounts for larger companies, and share capital as well. Ordinary and preference we have in this example, the number of shares of each. Moving through, quick look then at the audit requirements screen. Obviously, we do need to have an audit, so we're medium-sized in this example, and we have various audit options, audit report options that if you want to change your answer, it's just a case of left-clicking and saying that, yes, we do want the qualified opinion to be expressed in this example. Moving through then to engagement-specific data, we have some options here about restated balances, for example. I'm just going to say that we're not going to restate any within this particular example. We have options here about the tax rates, which will relate to the tax note, obviously. And the principal activity also needs to be entered here for XBRL tagging purposes. We do have some further checklists which you can launch to add in further sub-disclosures of notes. So if there is anything in particular you wish to disclose in addition to the basic information on each note, we can launch these checklists and go through and in minute detail and add in extra subsections of notes as required. So I would recommend maybe launching that checklist and going through, but probably coming back to the checklist once you've built your initial draft of the accounts, if you do need any extra disclosures to be shown for notes that exist. Finally, we'll get through to the accounts preparation table. And again, those of you that have used our desktop software will be familiar with the look and feel to this screen. The default setting is based on the answers we've already given within the wizard. Is that option going to appear? Is that section going to appear in the account? So tick will obviously mean yes, it will. A question mark will mean we're not too sure, but if a user was to go and override and say, yes, we do want a particular section, then they'll switch that section on and that will appear in the accounts as well. If we have a cross here, then we think based on the answers given, we shouldn't need that section. But again, a user still does have the option to override and say, yes, I do want that particular note or policy to appear. So for argument's sake, let's just switch on maybe the post-balance sheet events, let's say. Okay, so now PBSE events after the reporting period should appear. At that point, we can go through and build the financial statements based on all of the answers we've given in the wizard and obviously all of the information that we've entered thus far into the trial balance and also any journal adjustments that may have been entered into the engagement. So this will just take 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so to load up. Okay. So what we've done on this engagement on the cover page is to add a nice Caseware logo. Really, that is just to illustrate to people that it is much simpler on the cloud to add images and logos in general. There's no need to go into design mode or anything like that. There are options available within these text areas here to insert things like images by using these tools available towards the top there of that text box. So nice and easy to go ahead and add those kind of extra touches in. Maybe more relevant when we're looking at things like charity files moving forward, but potentially if you want a firm logo to appear somewhere on a cover page, then that's a nice feature that is available on the cloud. What I would like to do is just to work my way down some of these sections here. So if I go to the chairman's report, for example, what we have on the left-hand side, we note that we've got these placeholders remaining. So we've got 23 placeholders remaining. And this is, again, a feature that is relevant on the cloud that we don't have on the desktop. So what that basically means is that there's 23 instances within this set of accounts where we need some user intervention to enter in some data or to answer some questions. So in this example, on the chairman's report, we need to enter the name of the chairman. So a nice imaginative name that I've given him there. So you see the placeholders remaining, ticks down then to 22. And let's select a date of signature. Let's just go with today's date, whatever that is, 27th, correct, yes. So there we go, ticking down then to 21. Now you can cycle through all of the placeholders in the accounts by just clicking on that button, and it will take you down to the next instance, which in this instance is another signing date area. But that obviously needs to be completed before you go ahead and try to tag your accounts and finalize the accounts. So it's slightly different methods on the cloud to those of you that have used our desktop software. Just going further down, let's have a look at some of the primary statements. So the income statement, you'll notice here that we have hyperlinks to our relevant notes. So if I left click, it will navigate us to note number 4. And we've got our breakdown of turnover by class and by market, showing with the total amount obviously linking back up to our total as per the income statement. Similarly, we've got a link here to our tax notes. And again, if we jump down to that, we'll see again the analysis of tax, again tying up with what we have within our income statement. On the statement of financial position or the balance sheet, one thing that we've done on this engagement file here is just to throw our balance sheet out of balance by just £1 in the current year and the prior year, just to show you the warning messages that you'll get in that we're out of balance by £1, so hence the red warning message in both the current year and the prior year. So any differences there will be flagged, and obviously you can go ahead and resolve those by way of putting journals through as required in order to correct any rounding differences. Again, all of the notes we can link to dynamically by left clicking and jumping down to any of the notes that are applicable. So let's have a look at the creditors note, for example. I'm just going to delete that extra table. I'm going to add that back in shortly. Just to demonstrate some of the other editing functionality that you have within the cloud, let's pick up this note. So we've got a total of creditors due within 1 year, but maybe as a user, you might want to say a split of other creditors. Now, this is available anywhere within the accounts. It's not just exclusively within notes, but by hovering over the space just below a table or indeed above a table, anywhere within the accounts, if we left click, we can insert initially extra text sections. So just show you, you've kind of seen these already with the logo that I added in, but you can quite happily just type text in here. And also one of the useful features is that you can use this FX button to automatically link to properties that relate to the engagement file. So maybe you want the year-end date to appear. Perhaps you want a certain figure from your trial balance. So let's say we just wanted, for some reason, the total fixed assets number to appear. You just literally left click, and that value would then appear within your text note. Now, obviously, that will also update dynamically. So were we to post a journal to fixed assets now, then that figure would automatically change. So therefore, it's obviously a much better way of doing things rather than manually typing in that number and then having to go back and remember to change it should any figures change down the line. So you can kind of change the put as much text as you like in there. You can change the styles of the text using this drop down towards the top left. It's a much enhanced editing tool just for purely text areas. But what I really wanted to spend a little bit of time on is building what we call a dynamic table. Okay, so I've just built that one in, and then we need to go in and edit the dynamic table by clicking on these three dots over to the right-hand side. Again, it just takes a little while to load up this editing tool. But once it's loaded, it is quite a powerful tool, and you'll be able to build up some quite detailed notes relatively quickly that you can then go ahead and build back into the accounts, and you can duplicate these notes if perhaps you wanted a current year table and a prior year table. They're very easy to just sort of duplicate tables once they're built. So kind of a slightly underwhelming view to start with. You just have a current year and a prior year and a description column. But if I just click on this plus button here, you can pull data in from an input row. So an input row would literally just be text area for you to type data in. So an example where you might want to add input rows would be if you don't have the detailed description within the mapping, but perhaps you want to split out, let's say, turnover between different geographical regions. So you could insert a row for England, for Scotland, for Wales, and add a subtotal. But that would be literally manually typed in data. What I just want to show you here is trial balance data. So by searching for other creditors, if I click on the top tier of mapping, DO504, what it will do is it will bring in the total. But then if over to the right-hand side, I expand, it will give me an analysis of all of the sub accounts that go together to make up the total of 16,000 in this example. Now, only 2 rows. Obviously, if we had 20 rows of mapping underneath that, then quite quickly you would get the analysis of all of those showing as well. Then we have some other various options here. So let's say we want, this is a creditor's note, obviously, but we might not necessarily want those figures to show as negatives. So on a line-by-line basis, we can use this tool here to flip the balances so they show as positive. Equally, on the total row, we have choices of underlines. So if you wanted perhaps a double underline, then it's just a case of clicking on the 3 dots and adding the underline in there. So you can add extra rows in, you can add further analysis rows, you can add further subtotals, but hopefully you get the general idea that adding that in, if I save and close, that now shows as an extra analysis option beneath my existing trade creditors row. Sorry, trade creditors note within the accounts.
You might see me coming back online there, Ashley. You might be suspecting there may be some questions coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the questions whilst this is loading up. There's been quite a few coming through, so bear with us while I manage it. If I haven't answered it yet, or George hasn't answered it yet, it's probably because we're saving them up to ask Ash live on the call. I think just a quick point from the dynamic tables for me that I found really useful is, especially from client implementations, is how easy it is to restore the standard content that Ash and his team build in here once I modify tables. In desktop, it's not always so easy or quick to do so, but these applications really do allow quick and easy access to rebuild these tables in. So whilst we're here, Ash, one of the questions is, whilst you're editing text, and I wasn't quick enough to do it, was about note references, and how to add note references within text fields within here. So I just wanted to flag up that note option there on the toolbar. So I know from a lot of desktop users, you have to go into enable editing, add in a note reference, and the linkage is a little bit more tricky. But we've got the button, yeah, that's the one,
Yeah.
which allows you to go through and insert those note references really quickly, and you can drill down onto them and select any note or area within your accounts. This always comes up on implementation, so I'm glad someone asked that one. I've got more questions, Ash. We'll drop back in a moment,
No
but
worries.
I'll be quiet for now. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Tony. Okay, so yeah, obviously we've gone ahead and added in some extra detail within that note. One thing that you've probably picked up by now, I did mean to mention this right at the start, is that the way that our cloud system works as opposed to the desktop is slightly different in that you can't scroll down this pane here to the right hand side. You can't scroll down through every single note. You're literally just loading up that selected item of content in the right hand side. Obviously, when you come to print the accounts, obviously things will print out in order, and you'll get all of the page numbers pulling through. The reason we've done that is just purely for load time. It's a lot quicker just to load in the relevant page details. And performance was greatly enhanced when we kind of split this out. So hence we've gone down that route. But just one thing to mention that's slightly different to how functionality works within the desktop. Couple of other bits I just wanted to cover, just conscious of time, but if I go to, let's go back to the balance sheet again, and I just want to have a quick look at XBRL, because I don't think we've touched on that as yet. So XBRL is activated by this button here, and then by hitting this start review. And again, after a few seconds, we'll activate a pane over here to the right-hand side of the screen, which will show all of the tags that have been applied to the file. Now, the good news is that all of our content is automatically tagged. The only thing in this set of accounts that won't be tagged will be that note that I added in recently, the detailed analysis of trade creditors. For obvious reasons, that's not one of our standard notes, so that won't necessarily come through and show up for automatic tagging. But obviously, there are tools in place within this tool here to add in the extra manual tags yourself. My machine's just struggling slightly, I think, with sharing my screen and running Zoom simultaneously. So bear with me while this loads up. Still wait. Hopefully this will come through. Okay. So you can see now the pane on the right-hand side, and we kind of put an overlay over the set of accounts. So if I was to click on a particular tag, let's say intangible assets here for the current year, you can see the XBRL details that have been applied. So this is intangible assets, that's the element or the tag that's been selected. The active period end date is the context in GB pounds. So absolutely fine, we're happy with that one. Now, if a user was to come in and edit the tag, which they can do, and select something different, so let's just say creditors for argument's sake. As soon as I hit apply tag, you'll see that that cell then turns red, indicating that we have an issue. So the review is kind of switched on automatically. It's a live update. So what we're saying here is that the Caseware default tag differs to the tag that's currently in existence within this file. So it flags it up in red. It's likely to be incorrect. It might not necessarily, because obviously we could have gone in and just literally changed this description to say creditors, and then in fact that is correct and this is the incorrect tag. But more than likely, what we would need to do would be to go back to that cell and just delete the custom tag that's been added. It will revert to being green, and you see the standard tag is restored. Now, these areas that are highlighted in yellow are currently not tagged, but they are available to be tagged. And all you need to do to add a manual tag is to left click and add that tag. It will take you into the taxonomy. that's relevant. Obviously, the 2023 102 taxonomy here. Again, I'm just going to select a random tag, let's say current assets, and confirm. And again, a couple of extra tools just to be aware of that we don't have in existence on the desktop, mainly for validation purposes. I can't at that point hit apply tag because we need to set a context and we also need to set a numeric identifier. So if I select a context, if I was to select active period, it's still not happy because it recognizes that this is a balance sheet tag and therefore we ought to be using an instant context such as active period end date or prior period end date rather than just for the full active period. Now it's happy, there's no red cross there. Similarly, numeric, we need to select one of our numeric identifiers and then at that point we can happily apply the tag. At that stage, you'll see the cell has quite a subtle orange border around it, and it's a slightly deeper shade of yellow to indicate that that cell has a custom tag attached to it. Again, if we decide we don't want that, we can go ahead and bin the tag using this button here up to the top right. So that's how we go about adding in the XBRL tags. To go ahead and export the tags, it's a case of going back up to XBRL, hitting export, and that will go through the export XBRL process. Now, obviously, in this instance, we've still got 21 placeholders remaining. We've probably also got some other data that we would need to tag, including that new note that I've added in. So I won't go through that process, but obviously we do have training material and training videos available to show you exactly how that process works on the cloud, very similar to what currently exists within our desktop file. So I am conscious that I'm probably just about out of time. So hopefully that's given you a decent understanding of how the financial system works. Happy to sort of field any questions towards the end. But for now, perhaps I'll hand back to you, Tony.
Thanks, Ash. I'll be very quick on my next couple of points on like the education material and that process. So I know there's a lot of questions in there. I'd like to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to get those answered. So let me just share my screen, stop waffling, and there you go. That should be, I believe, this one. Right. Hopefully that's all loaded up your side now. Questions wise, do please keep them coming. There's lots of bits obviously we can't show you within the time allowed today. I mean, I think lots of the integration there with cloud audit. There was a question in there about sharing trial balances between audits and between accounts. I know that's in the questions list. There's a new tool that's been developed for SyncTB that will allow you to do exactly that. There's still some more development work to do to make sure the linkages work up, but that's nearly there. There's also APIs and SDKs in the cloud, which again would excite a lot of people about how we can get those efficiencies of setting up engagements and so on. Features wise, well, you saw quite a lot of the stuff, the flexibility, editing, absolutely. I think from dynamic tables and creating custom content, there's a lot of advantages. For example, like creating rights of use asset notes and so on for where there's material balances on the same financial position. The system lends itself very well for you to be able to create that content and tag it using the XBRL feature that Ash mentioned. Now, with that, there is onboarding and training and support. There's lots of content already there for the iXBRL course should hopefully be available early next week. So resources are building up all the time for the cloud applications. With our migration, there's different aspects we're looking at. Obviously, for clients' materials, there's different journeys. There's some people using Caseware Desktop for audit and accounts. Some using it for accounts and audit. There's other clients using other software packages. There are lots of tools in the cloud to help everyone's journey, and that is a real focus for us on onboarding and when we help implement you within systems. Okay, so to give you a bit of an oversight of what that journey is really, from today's session, if you do want to have a discussion with an account manager at Caseware, please let me know. I'm going to ask my colleague George in a second just to raise a poll, which is just asking you that question if you do want to have that communication, that conversation with one of the account managers. From once you have that conversation, they set out what those key parameters are, what the key engagements are. You go away and have an evaluation phase just to make sure that everything does what you need it to within the system. And then we just start discussing training elements and data migration and so on. There's steps to the guide, which we then break down into different onboarding models for different types of clients. So just to give you a gauge here, this is a standard onboarding, which is for the financials applications. It's a blended learning approach. So what that means is that we support it through live tutor sessions, e-courses, and external documentation to support that journey early days. We like to have pilot teams because that allows us to understand that you've tested the right areas that you need to reperform on a day-to-day basis, and we can develop training routines around those requirements for when we move on to the main user training. For the standard, it's shared with other clients, so you'll join public sessions with other clients with the same list of queries, and you'll work through them with a Caseware trainer. For larger firms that wish to have dedicated time with trainers, there's a premium onboarding model, which will then just be dedicated time with yourself and a consultant to make sure that the setup, presentation. Another one of the questions in the chat field was about changing fonts and styles and bits and pieces like that. And where do you go to do this? Absolutely, you can do. And that'd be one of the conversations we'd be having with you early days to to look at styles and so on. There's also additional initiatives with styles of firm styles. So for the desktop users that are used to firm styles within our Accounts Advanced products. That's not there yet within the cloud offering, but that is an area and initiative that is being built by the developers at Caseware. Okay, so again, if anyone wants any information, more information about onboarding and the packages and how we develop it around obviously your requirements and needs, please do drop something into the chat field. I'll be more than happy to join you for a conversation with potentially with an account manager to discuss that with you. But I did say there'll be some Q&A time, didn't I? So I do want to go into the Q&A session as well. So what I'm going to do quickly is just skipped a bit too far there because I've got Zoom over this side and now I can't find my app. So let me just close that down, minimize this and get to my Zoom apps, which has decided to hide itself. So bear with me. Oh, there it is. Right. Perfect. So questions wise, Ash, I don't know if you wouldn't mind coming back into the virtual room. And I was going to load up some of the questions that I know we haven't answered yet. Here we go. Side
Sure.
there. So I know at the moment, there we go. And there's my Q&A documents. Brilliant. So I will start at the top because there's a fair few questions that came in earlier on. So I hope there was one. There we go. So there's a question. If auditors send you a PDF of their audit report, can this be imported into the financial statements? This is a nice, easy one that I can answer, so I'll save the tougher questions for Ash. There's an embedded PDF option. So when you go through, John, and you go to say the audit report, you can actually select to embed PDFs. Now, because it's an audit report, you're still going to need to do some work with tagging for the audit. So there will be some considerations there, but absolutely. And then if anyone's considering how that might impact on trustees reports, then absolutely that'd be a very useful feature for when the charity applications are available as well. So let's move down to another question. So here we have companies registered in the Isle of Man, very similar to the UK requirements, but e.g. the Companies Act references are different, and there are some differences in the audit report. Is it possible to amend these? So this one here as well, I think I actually didn't get a chance to show you this today, but what you have also got within the cloud is an option to create an engagement file, make those customizations for the Isle of Man entities, and then you can use that as a source file to create X amount more entities that have already got those changes in for the Isle of Man Companies Act and so on. So the tools within the system are available for you to edit those and are nice and flexible. So hopefully that answers the question there. Let me go down to, here we go. So I've got a question here regarding notes to the accounts. So Ash, this one here, I definitely don't know the answer. Will there be suggested wording for notes to the accounts as there is in the desktop version? So for example, overdraft, director's loan accounts in debtors.
Yeah, there is. So we have default templated wording for the vast majority of our notes. As I showed you today, obviously there is quite advanced editing of those. It's not a case of some of the text being unlocked in the cloud, it's generally much easier to edit the existing text. But for the vast majority of notes, we do have sort of suggested wording that will appear. For some notes where we don't, it's generally it's quite difficult to sort of prescribe what the text might be because of the flexibility of what might be shown in the note. But we do have kind of help text areas. The light bulb is just shown up there towards the top of one of those notes, Tony.
Sorry, I've got loads of screens, the Zoom screens over, so I'm just trying to move them out of the way so I can see it all properly.
Perhaps if if you go to the basis of preparation
Preparation,
policy, yeah. So the question mark there, just want to see if you left click on there, generally speaking, that will open up some additional help text or prompt text, which is basically the cloud's way of saying this is what we think you need to disclose. But by all means, you can go ahead and click on the little plus button as I showed you to add in any extra text that's required. It's also a way that we use these placeholders that I mentioned. So there's still about 20 placeholders, I think, left in that file. So some of those will definitely be that we need a user intervention to a certain note or policy for you to actually manually type in the text. So that's certainly something that we use as well within the cloud.
One of the things we didn't see earlier as well is that when Ash was building in the text area, I could see it because I was in the file at the same time. I could see that Ash was editing that. Ash, would you be able to jump to the basis preparation and just add in a text section so other viewers can see? Perfect, thank you.
Okay, you should sort of see me adding something in here now.
There
hopefully, yeah. New text, and I'll prove it's live. Got the time that I've written that up there.
Perfect, thanks very much. And then at the same point, it's easy enough for me to go through and edit and update that to whatever it may need to be and close it off. So like the editing functionality, I think it's very strong and easy for us to go through and update and change. But there's also, as mentioned by Ash, there's review tools in here, which will go through and flag up areas where you have made changes to standard text and so on. And if you want to rebuild text backing, you've got options to build in multiple areas of standard text from using the plus icons, which is very handy. All right, so the 2 seconds, make sure I'm going to go through these questions. So we've got a question from Leanne as well regarding accounts prep. So this is just for accounts prep. What about if we use a document manager to build up a file for review for audit and audit exempts? It'd be good to know how that works. Yeah, absolutely. We've got audit exempts and audit templates as well. And there's also additional templates coming along solely for the use of a documents manager. It uses the same technology as what you've seen Ash running through today. So there's a lot of similarities between the products on tools and utilities, but I can definitely send you some more information on those other products, which will match up to your question there, Leanne. So I'll send those across. I've got a 2 seconds to make sure that was chalked off. That was done. Okay, we've got a question about the font size from Mark. Hopefully I've answered that one on the changes of font size. The other one I've got question there is about, and also can we lock access to staff? So effectively stop other members of the team changing settings for font styles and so on. Currently not within the system. There is an initiative that the SE squads, the smart engagements team, who work with all the developments, are looking at for the next year to be able to assign roles to particular members to restrict certain functions from particular groups of users. So what I'll do is I'll take that comment and I'll pass it back to the product team to make sure they're considering the settings for fonts and so on as well, because I can imagine after you spend your time, get this all set up, you don't want those changes to be made flippantly, and you want it to be quite controlled if those changes are going to be made. So absolutely, I'll pass that feedback onto the product team for you. There's a question there on how to apply rounding. Let me just go to the statement at the moment. I'm on, just to, again, just give a bit of information on the rounding side of it. I'm on a file that is, well, it's on a development server, so it's not on the live client bank. So there's a few bits and pieces that are happening behind the scenes at the moment on our templates. Effectively, there'll be rounding indicators like you can see on the screen, where it will allow us to assign rounding to particular rows in a very similar way to what we do within the desktop. So you won't have to post one-sided journals for your roundings. There is a feature that's built into dynamic tables that will allow you to do this. We've got a couple of articles looking at that to show the rounding function. So I'll make that available so you get a nice clear picture of how that is, because again, I'm a bit conscious we've just hit the 1 o'clock mark as well. Right. That's all the time we've got for the questions today. I will have a review of all the questions that have come in and make sure that we get answers for each and every one of you. The poll side, George, just checking we've got the poll all completed. No. Excellent.
I'm afraid Zoom's demoted me and I can't launch it.
Okay, 2 seconds. I'm just going to launch a quick poll then. To make sure that we could get Ash with a camera, we had to remove Georgie's access a little bit. So bear with me whilst I just load a quick poll. Further information that should be loading up on your screen now. Effectively just saying, would you like our team to contact you for more information about Caseware Financials or to arrange a demo? If there's anyone that does want information on the training routines, please reach out to me. Feel free to, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of the questions. Okay. Thank you very much for your time today, everyone. And thank you very much, Ash, for taking the time to show us around your new products. Hopefully everyone's found it useful. Look forward to having conversations with you all soon about discussing that migration to cloud financials. Okay. Right. I believe that's the poll done. Excellent.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ron. Have a good afternoon. Take care. Speak to you soon.